This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. Very excited to be speaking with Benito Skinner about overcompensating. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Of course. This is an exciting find for me because I'm very into movies and TV, but like that's it. So if you haven't been in a lot of movies or a lot of TV and you're like very well known in other things, I don't necessarily know about you. And so it was fun. I had seen you actually in Idiotka at South by Southwest
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah,
Owen, and that was its own like, extra kind of movie, but I really enjoyed it.
yeah. Thank
And
you.
so it was fun to see this and be like, see certain very well-known guest stars, a lot of other stuff, be like, who is this guy? Like, what do I need to know? What does the rest of the world know that I don't, that I've just discovered here in this TV world?
Oh wow. Oh my God. To think that you hadn't seen me in like 50 wigs. I kind of like that. You've got a lot waiting for you on the other side. I don't know if you need to see all of it, but yeah, thank you for saying that about the show.
So fair to assume that you expect that your audience is mostly going to come in with a lot of expectations from knowing who you are.
I don't even know. I think the response to some of the trailer is people being like, I didn't even know what that guy looked like because I was in costume so much. So I don't know. I don't think I have any expectation. I kind of would hope that it be like your experience too, where someone can just come to it and maybe, see that I've done that later. But yeah, I don't think that I thinking of something like as big as Amazon. I don't know. I think I was, prepared to have people have absolutely no clue who I am.
Well, I have to hope that a lot of this is fictionalized and made up, but I'm curious how much you are actually like Betty and what parts of this are true.
I made distinctions early where I was like, okay, I have three siblings. Benny has one, and it sounds, dumb and kind of like, well, why would that change that much? But it does help your brain just be like, I'm telling a different story, and this is for TV, and we need stakes and more drama. And but I will say everything that was about my experience being in the closet and coming out and these kind of like main things that happened to me that I think forced me to come out of the closet in a lot of ways or helped me to come out of the closet all were very true to my experience, and those were things that I I really tried not to change and tried to be as honest and vulnerable as possible in those. But yeah, I think a lot of times, I think my career started in character. So I think creating characters was so fun for me. So I wasn't trying to just write the people around me. I wanted to create characters and new people and surprise myself. And that helped too as far as playing Benny, where it's like the people around me are not the people that I was with in college. So and I think it helped create more of a performance for me.
This may sound completely naive and out of touch with reality, but I feel like without the smartphones, a lot of the show could take place like in the 90s or 2000s.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hope that at least in a lot of like liberal colleges, we've evolved past the point of like, I guess there's still social pressure, but like, how much do you think that this is a show about this moment in time or more about these characters and, a journey?
I think it's a bit of this moment in time, but also I have a hard time believing that it's easy to come out. I think, especially given the administration that we have right now. Um, I think if it was maybe easy, five or a couple years ago, I don't know if it will be within the next 4 years. So I also think that everyone has their reasons, and not just queer people, but I think for everyone, their reasons for overcompensating and performing in order to uh, feel safe and loved and accepted. And yeah, I think it definitely speaks, of course, to my experience in my time, and I wanted it to be as truthful to that as possible. But um, but yeah, I hope that it's easier to come out now. I'm not experiencing it, so I can't say. But I also know that I'm seeing a lot of freaky dudes on the internet who are watching guys saying really disgusting things all the time and are taking some of that rhetoric, I assume, to school. So I can't imagine that it's a dream by any means, or that it's, but the thought that also kids feel more safe to come out is amazing. So I hope that's the case, but I can't speak to it because I'm not in it.
I guess for as much as, liberal people are becoming more open-minded, that there's a movement against that at the same time. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's exactly. So you're still going to school where I think no matter what, or even any place where you're going to school, you're going to feel both and you're going to hear I think the opposition, which I think is, it can be as simple as that. It's just hearing it once that there's something inherently wrong about you or uncool about you or disgusting about you, and that I think sticks, unfortunately, for so many kids. I know it did, for me.
Well, going in, as I said, completely blind, I was like, oh, half-hour comedy, Amazon. I don't need to know anymore. I don't know if you've seen or heard of a film called Dating Amber.
No, I haven't.
Lovely, very fun film about
Yeah.
basically, two people, male and female who are both gay, and so they like start pretending to date to like cover for each
Oh, okay.
other.
Yes. Okay. I have heard of this. Yes. Okay.
So at first I was like, is this what we're doing here? And I was like, no, 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 no. And I
Mm,
like that because I like that, Carmen's stuff is completely different, but she's still trying to fit in the same way. It's just like coming from an entirely different, place.
yeah. Which is, I think, what it feels like, I think, in college, where it's like, I really did think that I was the only person that was doing this big performance. But as I looked around to the people around me, as I thought about it, I think in the space that I've had since that time of thinking of everyone putting on, and especially during that first week of college, all the things that, all the lies I think that we were all telling each other, very sweetly in a way to, I think, protect ourselves and receive any kind of love or friendship, which I think in that first week is such a currency of like, please, will anyone love me? Can I please go, roll deep with a group tonight so I don't look like a loser? Like, I think, yeah, it felt universal, I think, and that's what I loved about it.
It's so I want to flag a spoiler warning for those who haven't finished watching the show by the time
Mhm,
where
mhm.
this is live. I personally tried to space it out, one episode per day, not more than that.
Damn. Okay. Okay.
Well,
That's, yeah,
I
impressive.
have a lot to watch, so at least I'd like to like go through like a rotation so I can try to give each episode their due.
I love
And
that.
so I was enjoying the show, but there was the point, I think it was the end of episode 5, where I was just like, okay, now like I am, that moment where they see each other right across and just realize and don't even need to say anything. And I think that is really wonderful. And I wonder how you mapped out the season and if you knew that's where that was going to be.
Yeah, I think I had time, I think, in developing this, that I really knew what was going to happen in the end, and the two lines that were going to be said back and forth between Benny and Carmen. And I knew that, yeah, right around the midpoint, that would happen, that this kind of miscommunication and a misunderstanding would happen, and then something really big for Benny and Carmen, and finally seeing each other and thinking about, um, that in a moment where Benny's not ready to say everything, he doesn't have to, and a friend allowing him that. And I think that relationship, having this moment and this kind of, cathartic reuniting of characters that I think have been separated for a couple episodes just because of miscommunication and a misunderstanding. And sadly, um, I think the carnage that comes with, trying to protect yourself. And I think that carnage is in the form of, people getting hurt along the way because you're just self-preservation, every man for himself in college. But yeah, I always saw that as kind of the middle. And I think I kind of knew that it would be around a Halloween episode because I love Halloween, and also felt like, um, what a beautiful place to draw from is the costumes that we're all wearing. And I think that that's what the whole show is. So to then tap into it in that way, I was like, this feels like the time, of true heartbreak. Yeah.
I still waited a full 24 hours until I watched the next episode,
That's
which
crazy. You sick bastard. That's crazy. I'm really proud of you.
but I also wanted to say because at one point I got to episode 7 and finished, and I was like, oh no, like all these other shows, there's more, but it's only episode. Like, what am I gonna, And episode 7 also, I mean, I obviously could understand that you were well connected with people. You got, Charlie XCX and Megan Fox on the poster, all the other people. But to have Connie Britton and Kyle MacLachlan just sort of show up for a minute in the first episode and then not come back till then, I think episode 7 is very revealing and also gives us a completely different perception of Grace, who sort of seems like, I mean, she's not nice to her brother, but she also she really gets, the back half a really great development there.
Thank you so much. I loved writing that episode. I think that it's one of my favorite episodes in the whole series. And I think so many things are leading up to that. And that felt like what a nice, like, you know, I think climax for some of these characters before, we go into the finale and fuck it all up. Um, which was also really fun to do, but also kind of sad and sick. I was like cringing throughout writing it, even though I knew it was coming, and just like, God, why did I do this? But yeah, I love, that Grace storyline. Thinking about that, I kind of always knew that it would be this reintroduction of herself in front of people that had judged her so hard before. And I think the power that that can feel, and the power of coming home from even a couple months at college and being like, this is the new me, like eat it up. But that you've lived a whole other life before this bubble of college, that you've been consumed by has happened. So yeah, I that Grace scene that plays in that episode, and the scene between Carmen and Grace is one of my favorite to write in the whole show. I think two people that feel so at odds the whole show, or really have never connected, actually have so much to connect on. And that being so much of the show is just miscommunication, and through, I think being fearful or scared of the projection that someone's giving of who they are, and being like, well, they'll hate me. When it's actually so not the case. They're as hurt as you are, and maybe more.
I'll also just say that I got Facebook like right before I went to college. Like that was when
Mm-hmm.
Facebook was like sort of like blowing up. And I'm coming up theoretically next year would be my 20-year high school reunion. And like I only keep in touch with a few people, but I'm friends on Facebook and follow them on Insta, like with
Mm-hmm.
so many of them. And so it's an interesting idea that obviously this is so close. This is like right at the beginning of college, they just left, etc. But obviously not the same for Grace, but still like I'm curious. That's definitely a way that the 2000s part of this is very different. That now I feel like we're
Mm-hmm.
all that if there's a point at which Benny is out, which we'll get to that,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's going to see it if he puts it on his social media.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that feeling, so that might be the greatest jump of all. It's like it might be harder to come out online than it is to your dad, but I don't know if that would be true for Benny or my experience. That, I think there is something to be said. Like, I feel like I did come out on the internet for like 6 years straight, and I think, yeah, I think there's complications in all of it, but that's so true that it's very, the, the performance online is a whole other thing that we have to do. And what a nightmare. That's
Well,
a
let's
part of
talk
growing
about,
up now.
of course, and again, that's why like there's a sort of timeless quality, and also very much like they're on their phones, and the fact that they can communicate so quickly, even if they communicate poorly, is key to like how everything happens here, which is great.
Yeah.
And so that final scene, I think again, I was like,
Mhm.
how can I know I have to wait everyone has to wait like a year, however long, if it's really, which I don't understand how somebody could watch it to be like, that's it, we're done with the show, we're not gonna pick this up for more. Like that was good, we're
Mhm.
all set. But it's so perfect because it's so quick and it's just enough of a series of unfortunate things and then like gut reactions heard by everybody. I like the split screen where you just get to see how everybody is like equally horrified
Mhm.
and confused.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, that scene. I shooting it was so emotional, honestly, because it was so late at night too, so we're all just kind of delirious. But I think I always had that joke for Haley at the end, so I was also like by the end preparing for that and trying not to like ruin a take. But I I love that scene so much. I love where we ended. I love that we got to use sleigh bells too. Thank you, sleigh bells. But it feels like such a, again, I think it's the miscommunication and the dishonesty. But then in this moment, finally some truth seeps in, and someone might hear something that's finally honest, but they are not ready to hear that, or the person is not ready for them to hear that in Benny's case. And yeah, it just felt like what a nightmare. And I wanted like riots outside if we didn't get a season two. That's what but I also grew up with like the OC and Gossip Girl and stuff. So I'm like, you kind of can't end a season without that. And it felt like, I think we're also trying to make some good TV that feels like, oh my God, I need the next fucking episode. And I think a challenge for me as a writer, and as a creator to play those out. I think we tried that the whole season. We never wanted anything that we set up to not be answered. We didn't want to try to like, just kidding, that's not what happened, or it was a dream. Like we really wanted to, if something complicated happened, dive into it and dive into why, and allow the audience to watch it and maybe feel something different than they thought they were going to feel about it.
More do you have written?
How much more do I have written? I mean, I know what I want to do in season two, but I gotta get that confirmed before I write. I think writing full scenes, it would break my heart too much if we didn't get to do it. So I'm like, it's all in my notes app. I'm feeling good. I'm so ready to do it, but nothing, no full scenes. I think I have a few interactions or lines that I have that I'm like, oh, that feels good, or a spring break idea and stuff like that, but nothing too much. I'm superstitious. So
Well, you mentioned the OC and Gossip Girl. I didn't get very into Gossip Girl, but I did watch the OC when I was in high
hell
school.
yeah.
Are there other influences that you can trace back for this show?
Oh yeah, I think Freaks and Geeks is my favorite show of all time. So I think a part of that and a part of it being funny but also sad, I think really inspired me. I think Election felt like this almost like kind of dreamlike world that movie takes place in. Uh, Mean Girls definitely too, just because of the nostalgia to it and the fact that I think anyone can see that and feel like it's their high school, even if you were going to high school at the time it came out or 10, 20, 30 years later. So I think in trying to match the tone and the vibe of that, I think so inspired by that, and also just having so many comedians in it. That to me, I think is like Mean Girls feels so that, um, and also having some of my friends in the show, I think that too, and them being not only just my friends, but I think my comedic heroes and having them. But yeah, I think those are kind of some of the main influences, and the idea of like creating an American Pie, but what if you made it gay? What if it was about a gay dude? And then from there, I think, yeah, I like that it maybe has that nostalgic feel to it. That felt like all those things, the John Hughes of it all, I think, and a coming of age that can be so funny, but also so sad. I think I really was inspired by that.
I would say aside from John Hughes, like definitely the late '90s, early 2005, like that's certainly the
Yeah,
era.
definitely. Or like Never Been Kissed, I think is such a comp for that. Like that feel, it has some of that. And that's like one of my favorite movies of all time. So definitely, I'm glad you got that.
And you have all these really great big names in pretty small roles. And obviously it helps to have them involved with the project, but what's the key balance for like getting someone who's not going to be too distracting, but is going to talk about spitting in your mouth, something like something to get them memorable enough.
Yeah. Talk about spitting in your mouth. I love that. I love that I've made a show where you get to say that. That's so fun. I'm so lucky. I think it's thinking about what you want the audience to feel. So that to me was always the inspiration. Like as far as Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang, my idea was like, of course, I want it to be immediately this guy you feel comfortable with Matt Rogers, but then you're shocked that Bowen Yang has just come into the room as his husband. Like that to me was like I don't think it'll be distracting. I think it will only make it more funny, and they're so brilliant, so of course it will be more funny. And so that was such an easy and such a I'm so glad they said yes, but very easy decision. Um, and or the Megan Fox, I think, is kind of knowing that you've set up that joke for so long. I mean, we show you that poster early, and I just had that idea, and it felt like such a weird kind of something that I hadn't really seen, and also was kind of true to my experience. I always was like in these bathrooms and frat houses, and I was looking around at like these iconic women, and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, girls, what led us here? Um, and so I think in something like that, yeah, we're to shock people, but then also I think in the shock, allowing for emotion, or the Caleb Heron of it all. I mean, I just he's the funniest person in the world to me. I needed someone who could spar with Mary Beth as Grace in those scenes. I was just like, well, Caleb Heron, will you please come for 2 days? And it worked in his schedule, and I need him back. But yeah, I think I just in thinking about the audience, I think, and what I really wanted people to feel when they saw these scenes, I think it helped. Um, and why the people who I think are in it are just so perfect for it and help in telling the stories.
Do you think there's a happy medium between those who are just like, okay, I'm going to watch this, they can do this in the whole thing in 4 hours, or the extreme of me, who, the horror of watching it, separating a day out, in between each one?
I I definitely think we made it with the thought that it would be binged all in one, just because of I think it feels like that kind of show, you know, and writing it. And I love a cliffhanger. I love a mic drop at the end of episodes. So I love that you did that. That is like true self-control, and you should be really proud of yourself. Yeah, maybe like, you know, three, three, and two, or I don't know. Um, I can't do that. I'm like, I rip through shows. So I think I wrote for the Mies of the world.
That is my last question. That we talked about all these shows you like, from the 2000s, etc. But what have you watched very recently that you really like?
Oh my God. I thought Adolescence was unbelievable. And made me so just sick to my stomach. So that was truly incredible. I've been watching the new season of Hacks, and I think it's fantastic. I just watched the episode that Pat Regan wrote, and he was in our writers' room as well. And I just think he's so funny, and just that show is incredible. So I was watching that. What else? Oh my God. I have been doing a lot of press, so for the show, fortunately, loving it. Press is press. It's amazing. I've been watching more just like videos of Disney adults on my phone, I would say is probably huge. Also, I have this new era where I watch people review Lego sets. I don't know. I don't know what that says about me, but I can't recommend it enough. People building Lego sets and you hear the clicks. Yeah. I'm
You
looking
like
at your
building
face
Lego
and you're
sets?
disgusted.
No, I just do you like building, like I get videos of steaks being cooked, but like I like eating steaks. Do you like building Lego sets yourself?
I used to love doing it as a kid. Yeah, I think if I had one right now, I'd be like, that sounds really nice. But also just like watching someone else do it, I'm like, I love hearing it, and that's cool that that's how they built that. And so it feels so opposite to me too. But um, that, and then I've also been rewatching Broad City. That used to be one of my favorites, and I love it. Yeah. What
Well,
about you? What are
lots of
you
great
watching?
choices there.
What are you watching?
People
What's
always people do turn this question on me. I like somebody so
overcompensating? Yeah.
I actually will say that I have been watching. I finished Overcompensating. Now I've been watching Adults. I don't know if you've had a
Great.
chance,
I
but
haven't
I feel
seen it,
like
but Owen
those
Thiel, my
two
baby.
should
Yeah.
exist in the same world. I feel like people who
Yes.
like Overcompensating, Adults, like those are really,
Perfect.
yeah, they're a nice
Yeah.
pairing to each other.
Okay,
So
great. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait. I mean, Owen Thiel is like, that's one of my best friends. It's
I'm
going to be
confused sometimes. I was like,
fantastic.
hold on a second. I thought I finished Overcompensating. What's going on here? But
I
it's a
know. Yeah.
very
There's some
different character.
crossover. Okay, great. Yeah.
But I am confident that this is going to go very well and that we are going to speak again. I'm very excited that I got to
Thank
know
you.
you as the only person in the universe who got to discover
I
you
don't think you're
through
the only person in the universe, and I like that. I think it's hell yeah. Let me you're introduced to a very different way. I think that's great. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish you nothing but good luck with the show.
Thanks so much. This was amazing.